CEO Serafina Blake fired Carter Hayes right there on the factory floor, her voice echoing over the hum of machines and the stunned silence of 2 shifts watching at once. She didn't summon him to her office. She didn't lower her voice. She wanted witnesses. "Carter Hayes," she said coldly, clipboard tucked under her arm, eyes sharp and unblinking. "You acted without authorization, caused significant operational damage, and cost this company hundreds of thousands of dollars. You are terminated. Security will escort you off the property. You have 10 minutes. Carter didn't argue. He shut off the faucet at the industrial sink, dried his hands slowly on a rag, and looked at her. Not with anger, not with fear, with something that unsettled her far more: acceptance, as if he had known this moment would come. "I need to get my backpack," he said quietly. The simplicity of the request threw her off. No protests, no excuses, no threats of legal action. Just that. "Fine," Serafina replied after a beat. 10 minutes. Carter nodded once and walked away. He collected the worn backpack from his locker, slung it over his shoulder like it was the most important thing he owned, and headed for the gate. Archie Dunn, the aging night security guard, unlocked it without a word. Carter stepped into the gray morning and disappeared down the street without looking back. Serafina should have felt relief. The board wanted a head to roll, and she'd given them one. She'd shown strength, control, discipline. Instead, something gnawed at her chest. 3 weeks earlier, she'd signed a contract that would either save her career or end it. The board of directors at Blake Dynamics had been merciless. The new manufacturing protocol was behind schedule, safety incidents were piling up, and the insurance company was watching closely. Wilfred Stone, the most ruthless man in the room, had leaned forward across the polished mahogany table and delivered the ultimatum like a blade. "You're too soft, Serafina," he'd said. "Soft leaders build soft companies, and soft companies collapse. Meet the deadline or step down." The words haunted her because she knew exactly where they came from. Her father had built Blake Dynamics from nothing. A man who believed in loyalty, in giving people chances. And those beliefs had destroyed him. Managers had stolen. Contractors had cut corners. Workers had exploited his kindness. Lawsuits had followed. Then illness. Then a funeral where Serafina stood beside a coffin and made a vow she'd lived by ever since. Never trust. Never let sentiment cloud judgment. Run the company like a machine, because machines don't lie. The factory had been struggling for months. Oil leaks that shouldn't exist. Sensors malfunctioning for no clear reason. A worker slipping on hydraulic fluid and breaking his wrist. Nothing catastrophic yet, but close enough to smell danger. Wilfred had been clear. One more serious incident would trigger a full investigation. Serafina needed control. She needed discipline. She needed an example. Carter Hayes worked nights. He was quiet, reliable, always took the hardest assignments, never complained. But his file was dotted with notes, leaves workstation frequently, takes unauthorized breaks, carries personal items off company property. The backpack didn't help. Carter carried it everywhere. Never left it unattended. People whispered. Some thought he was stealing tools. Others suspected drugs. Archie Dunn had seen Carter sneaking food out more than once, but Archie never reported it. There was something about Carter that didn't feel criminal. He always said thank you. Always helped when he didn't have to. Once, he'd stopped mid-shift to help an elderly janitor carry a trash bag, even though he was clearly in a hurry. What Serafina didn't know was that Clinton Voss, head of operations, had been waiting for an excuse. Carter noticed things, asked questions, dangerous ones. Why were safety sensors being bypassed? Why were inspection protocols skipped? Why did the same subcontractor keep winning bids despite shoddy work? Clinton had answers for none of those. He had a financial arrangement instead. Carter Hayes was a threat. The incident happened on a Tuesday night, 48 hours before Serafina's deadline. The main production line seized with a metallic scream. Temperature sensors spiked into the red. Someone had silenced the alarm. Carter reached the control panel first. He saw it immediately. An overheating bearing, friction building, hydraulic fluid leaking dangerously close to an electrical junction. If the line kept running, it could ignite. Emergency shutdown. Carter shouted. Clinton overruled him. "We're behind quota. We can't afford to stop. Carter didn't hesitate. He slammed the emergency stop. The entire line died. Lights flickered. The sudden silence was filled with the hiss of cooling metal. The shutdown cost the company $200,000. Clinton moved fast. He edited the logs, deleted the warnings, kept only one thing, footage of Carter hitting the emergency stop. By morning, the report was on Serafina's desk. Wilfred Stone called within the hour. I need to see a head roll. Serafina had been awake for 36 hours. She looked at the numbers, the report, the pressure, and she made her decision. Now, standing by the factory gate, watching Carter vanish, she noticed something she couldn't shake, the backpack. She'd seen inside it when he opened his locker. Bandages, children's medicine, bread, peanut butter, not stolen tools. Archie approached her cautiously. Miss Blake, I know it's not my place, but Carter Hayes isn't a bad man. He cost us $200,000, she replied tightly. Archie nodded. Maybe, but I've worked here 23 years, and I've never seen someone like him. The words followed her back to her office, followed her through reports she couldn't focus on, followed her until she did something she couldn't explain. She took her personal car and followed Carter. 3 blocks from the factory, he stopped at a corner store selling expired goods. Serafina watched through the window as he counted coins. Bought milk, day-old bread. The elderly shop owner added extra rolls without charging him. Carter turned into a neighborhood Serafina had only ever seen from the highway. Broken streetlights, boarded windows, graffiti-stained walls. A child stood lookout on the corner. Dad's here, the kid shouted, running ahead. Serafina parked and followed on foot. The abandoned building loomed like a skeleton, condemned but still standing. Light flickered inside. She pressed herself against the wall and looked through a gap in the boards. Carter Hayes was kneeling on the filthy floor, surrounded by 4 children. He divided food carefully, cleaned a scraped knee, wrapped a trembling child in his jacket, taught another to read, corrected arithmetic with cardboard scraps, calmed nightmares with quiet words and steady arms. Dad's here. Serafina's breath caught. This wasn't charity. This was family. And in that moment, everything she believed about strength began to crack. Serafina stayed hidden in the shadows for a long time, long enough to see that what she was witnessing wasn't temporary or improvised. Carter moved through the space with the ease of someone who had done this 100 times. He knew where everything was. He knew which child needed encouragement, which needed rules, which needed comfort. These children didn't orbit him out of desperation alone, they trusted him. She finally backed away, her legs shaking, and sat in her car for nearly 20 minutes, staring at the steering wheel. The world she built, rules, discipline, emotional distance, was collapsing under the weight of what she'd seen. The next morning, reality delivered its next blow. The abandoned building was scheduled for demolition. Serafina stared at the city notice in disbelief. 48 hours. That was all the occupants had to vacate. And buried in the development paperwork was a familiar logo, the same subcontractor Clinton Voss had been pushing at Blake Dynamics. Worse, Blake Dynamics itself was listed as a minor investor. She had signed off months earlier without reading the details. Her company was about to destroy the only home those children had. That night, Carter kept the children outside, watching as city workers posted final warnings. Leo tried to stay strong, stuffing their belongings into plastic bags. Matilda cried quietly. Oliver paced. Finn clung to Carter's leg. They're going to split us up, Leo whispered. They always do. I won't let that happen, Carter said, even though he knew he had no legal standing to stop it. Serafina arrived just after sunset. She stepped out of her car in an expensive coat, holding an envelope. I can help, she said. I can pay for a hotel. Leo stepped in front of the others. We don't want your money. You fired him. Carter placed a hand on Leo's shoulder and faced Serafina, exhausted but calm. You can't fix this with money, Miss Blake. I want you to see them. Really see them. While Serafina wrestled with her conscience, Clinton Voss was fighting to protect himself. Rumors spread. Carter was labeled a thief, a criminal. Wilfred Stone demanded control. Instead, Serafina ordered a full audit. The truth came fast and brutal. The censor logs had been edited, warnings silenced, Carter had prevented an explosion. Clint and Voss had falsified records. Serafina fired him and turned the evidence over to authorities. The board erupted. Threats were made. She was suspended pending investigation. That night, she went back to the abandoned building. She smelled smoke before she saw the flames. The building was on fire. Carter ran in without hesitation. Serafina followed. Inside, chaos. Smoke. Heat. Carter's voice cut through it all. Steady, trained, guiding the children. One by one they made it out. The roof collapsed behind them seconds later. Outside, coughing and burned, Serafina looked at Carter and said the truth she couldn't escape anymore. I already killed you once with my decisions. I wasn't going to do it again. The fire wasn't an accident. Archie's phone footage showed men tied to the development company starting the blaze. Clinton was arrested 2 days later. So were others. The media storm was fierce, but the truth held. Serafina kept her job. Blake Dynamics reformed. But the children still needed a home. Serafina built something new. Not a shelter. Not charity. A real place. Legal. Transparent. Safe. Carter helped design it. He didn't want a title. Just responsibility. On opening day, Serafina arrived without ceremony. Finn ran to her and hugged her legs. Are you staying for breakfast? She looked around. Pancakes cooking. Books open. Laughter. Carter smiled. Welcome home. And for the first time in years, Serafina sat down at a table and felt like she belonged.